Hello guys, welcome to ZBrush hard surface sculpting. So today I'm going to introduce some of the ways you can create ZBrush hard surface. Okay. Let's start with a very simple sphere here. Let me go change my material, and then I can directly go make polymesh 3D and then dynamesh it. Okay. And then I can go smooth it a little bit because those original geometries edge are still there. So I can go to deformation and then smooth it. Let's drag it multiple times to smooth it. Anyway. And then I can use the clip curve tool, which is this guy here, to start clipping out some of the shapes that I can. Clip curve tool, maybe to clip out some of the shapes I like to, have. The way to use clip curve would be you holding down Control Shift, and then you can drag out a line. After the line is created, you can release any key Control Shift you have pressed. Just release those keys. You can press out once to change direction, press out twice to have a sharp turn, holding down space to move it. Okay, and then you can also change the direction of cutting by holding down Alt before you release the left mouse button. That's all you can do with the clip curve. So let me go Control Shift and then create a nice and smooth curve to cut out the bottom. And maybe I can have a steeper face on the top. And maybe I can make this guy longer. Or I can just drag the bottom back. Okay, just designing it. Okay, now you see that's the power of ZBrush, which is freeforming, and which is kind of hard to do in Maya or Cities SMax. You have to always worry about topology, so you end up with half concentrated on doing topology. That's gonna make your model lesser detailed and also kind of losing some design focus on it, so it feels simple, especially when you don't have a reference or a already designed geometry. Then you will end up with something not as good as ZBrush can offer. Although I shouldn't say two matters here. If you're really good, you can do anything. But oftentimes when I'm using ZBrush, I always get better detail, better shape, better design, and I also enjoy it more because I'm not dealing with topology. Okay, anyway, so now I have the basic shape. I think I'm happy with it. Maybe I can have the front more flat. It's gonna feel more interesting. Okay. So all I'm thinking about is shape here. And then let's see, alright, I want to have some panel created, maybe here on the side of the model. Okay. So what I can do here, let me just cut that out a little bit more and polish it using the edge polish actually. The traditional way is you can mask that area. Okay. And then go Sub 2. I'm a little tired. Extract to extract out a geometry. You can change the thickness to have thicker geometry created, or not, maybe not that thick. Maybe a little bit thicker. And then accept it. When you accept it, you will have a new Sub 2. Okay. Now this new Sub 2 then can be used to create the new extra panel I want to have there. Before I do more stuff, I always go re-data mesh this guy. Okay. And then I can go use clip curve. I also just give them one polygroup by pressing Ctrl W. And then I can go clip it like that. Okay. So you see this workflow is all focusing on doing the shape and not worrying about topology. Okay. I forget to turn on symmetry, so the other side is all destroyed. No big deal. I can go modify topology, mirror and weld to mirror my model to the other side once again. Okay. I think this thickness is really that needed that much, so I'm gonna cut out of that. I can mask that guy and then cut it out, otherwise it's gonna move that guy to some weird places. Oh. Okay, and then remirror and weld. Alright. So I have this little panel created. It's a fairly simple process. And you can of course do that very easily in Maya too. It's just doing here that just feels much more natural, and you can design it or focus on the design. Let's say I want to bevel it then. To bevel the edge, I can use clip curve to clip the edge. Okay. I don't want to bevel it all the way through. I want to have that little cut there. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay. Now, if you want to have cleaner results, you want to have higher resolution on the data mesh. So let me just double my value there and then data mesh it again. And hopefully this time I will have better results. Okay. Sure, that's not cutting into the area I want it to be. Alright, that's what I want. Cool. So some nice cutting there. Okay. The next thing you can do is I want to show you that you can do is booleaning. For example, I want to create a hole here. Okay. What I can do is using an insert cylinder brush and then holding them out to insert a cylinder. And you see that that new inserted cylinder is flipped normal-wise. That's because it's considered a subtraction, and then I think it's not all the way through, so I'm gonna drag it in a little bit. That means if I do data mesh, that's gonna be used to subtract that part. Okay, which is nice. Alright. Now I can also do something with it, like if I want to have some interesting cutting or variation here. Okay. I can mask that area. Okay. Invert the mask. Use move. Actually, drag it there. And then, oh, it's actually not that easy to do here. I can just use my trim dynamic BTD. Okay, to push that little part in. To have some, variation on the side of the circle. Okay. I need to have higher resolution to create more detailed stuff. Anyway, so maybe I need to do that to 512 instead. Then I one more time. I can even smooth this out. You know what? Let me just trim data mesh this entire loop for the circle shape here. It's gonna take a little patience. Okay. I don't know if there is an easy way to do this part. So if you know that, please let me know. Okay. Alright. So it's more or less like a bevel. I will show you how to do this using a different way, which is easier. But for now, this is more like a traditional way of doing this. Some people have lazy mouse there to control it better. To me, I think I can just brute force through that to do that. Okay. Anyway, so that's booleaning. I can use the same technique to maybe cut out some edges at the bottom, some shapes at the bottom, like maybe insert a cube here and use reverse. Okay, and then drag it out. Maybe make it thinner. Okay. And also longer, I guess. Okay. And then drag it in. Maybe I can even mask that, so I can rotate that. Alright, perfect. Clear the mask, holding down Control and click on it when you're using Move to mask everything else again. And then I can holding down Control while dragging it using Move to create multiple instances of this guy. And then when I Dynamesh, I can cut out all those. Okay. Kind of want a little bevel there too. Again, this process is more artistically interesting than Maya's box modeling. Maya's box modeling, although it's clean, but it is boring. Okay. Anyway, now I have a little panel created on the side. It does have a lot of variation on it already. Okay, but I can keep doing new variations, like some nice cutting on this side too, if I wanted to do that. Cool. But that's just one of the ways you can create. Oh, forget one thing to introduce, which is alright, I have this panel created, but what if I want to break it into two parts? You can actually do that very easily here too. Not very easily, but sort of easily. First of all, you want to Control W to make it a one poly group again, and then you want to use BSI /curve. Okay, and then just slash through the model. Maybe I can slash it here. Okay, and then you Dynamesh without project but with group. If you Dynamesh it this way, see now that line becomes a seam, and if you smooth it, you see now there is actually a inset face in there. Okay, that means it's actually two separate parts now, even they're the same subtool. But if you try to holding down Control and click on it while using the transpose tool and drag it away, you see now the inset face is not belonging to the unmasked area. That's because that one on the inside is a different polygroup. So you want to go auto group here underneath polygroup, and then do that, and then you can drag this front part away. Okay, to create a nice seam between the panels. Maybe I can just drag it away a little bit. Okay, and then maybe I can make it go out. Oh, I don't have that much topology on the inside. I can of course very easily masking it by changing my masks into a lasso to mask the bottom area, and then just drag that out to offset it. Okay, and maybe I can have a nice bevel here too. Oh, not slice, actually, creep curve. Sorry, not yeah, clip curve. BCC or that to have some nice beveled edge there. Okay. And then for this guy, can maybe, oh, don't want to move it actually. Oh. Clip this part too, you know, to have a nice bevel there. And maybe, you know, sometimes I just get carried away of creating smaller details. It's really fun to do. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Oh, sorry, clear the mask. Let's do that. Okay, and then sub 2, extract, accept. Don't really care the shape yet. So I want this guy to do is just, you know, stretch it out. I can actually drag the top out because I can drag that out separately because it does have a thickness as a different polygroup. So I can control click on it to offset that. Okay, so this is gonna be more or less like a connector between those two. Okay. Let me go Dynamesh it. Alright. And then do some fancy cutting to make it more like a hard surface. Okay. Clip there, and then there. And maybe here it's going in like that. Okay. Oh. Guess I'm going to the wrong direction. Alright. And then maybe here can have something like that. Don't have enough resolution for that. Okay, anyway, enough of that. Okay, I'm playing too much. But again, it's really fun. It's really fun to play. Maybe that's not cool. Anyway, let's just forget that part. So let's go for something else. That's how you getting new panels and, you know, extrude it out and, you know, put it on the other side. You know, give it thickness to, you know, not the other side. I'm kind of a little tired. So that's how you create, you know, additive panels. But if you want to create subtractive panels, like going in, inserted panels, you can also do that. I think I need to mirror it there. This guy actually, or actually both. Alright, so dipping in. The workflow is like this. First of all, you need higher enough resolution. So go Dynamesh and then change that to 512 if I can. My machine can handle that. Okay. Okay. And then go mask the area you want to go dipping in. Maybe just those. Trying to design it. Okay, maybe some shape like that. I think I can make that bigger. So you're just literally thinking about different things in ZBrush. In ZBrush, you always think about shape, which that's why I think ZBrush is awesome. Okay. Anyway, then you Ctrl W to give it a polygroup and isolate that polygroup. And then you want to go to the deformation, and then there is a polish by feature. Now turn off that little dot there. That's gonna give it full control or full smoothness. When you drag that up, you see the edge will be smoothed quite nicely. Okay, and then you can hold it down Control and click on that, and then drag it in. Okay, but you will have some artifact on the edge. To prevent that, you can hold it down Control Shift and drag it in. What that does is actually extruding the face in, just like the extrusion in Maya. Okay, now before I let it go, I can also maybe scale it a little bit, and then maybe use my move to fine-tune the indentation until I like, okay, this is what I want. Alright, and now I have a very clean extrusion here. Okay, another fancy trick here is you can isolate this guy, right? And then you can go for stroke, and then curve function and frame mesh. That will create a curve that is wrapping around this mesh. Okay, and then you can use any curve, insert curve brush, for example, like that one. And you can click on that curve, and that's gonna actually create draw that curve brush across the line. Okay, now you want to have smaller brush here, and just click there. Okay, that way you have a very nice, you know, decoration over there. I think it's a little bit too big. I can still make it smaller. Okay. All right. So that was cool. Okay. So that's basically what traditional hard surface sculpting can offer. Just use those that technique or that technique just to bump things out, pushing things in, creating new shapes, combine them together. You can separate panels. You can bevel using click curve. You can use Boolean to subtract and adding in new shapes. Okay, so it's actually already pretty versatile, and you can do all sorts of stuff already. But since ZBrush 4 or 5 or 6, I don't know which the version is, or 4 or 7, I don't really remember. There's a new brush called ZMolar. Okay, so before ZMolar, that's all there is. But if you go to ZMolar now, you can actually start using ZMolar to do box modeling in ZBrush. I can demonstrate that by go to maybe the top. Okay. So what you can do here is what I can do here is I can go. There are two different ways. One is use topology brush here. I can just draw out the topology brush to draw some geometry there. Okay. But the topology brush is not really that flexible. Sometimes you cannot get the shape, the topology you want. But when you're happy with this thing, you just click on the model that's gonna convert that into a polygon. You can make your brush bigger to make it thicker. Okay. I don't worry about the symmetry because I can always just do the mirror and wild. Okay. To fix that, not quite working over there though. Oh, it's just the creasing in the middle. I guess it's okay, but just to be safe, I'm gonna go. Oh, let me show you ZMolar then. So ZModeler is a brush for hard surface modeling. What it does is you can do extrusion like this. It's lagging because this big chunk of geometry also belongs to that part. They're the same subtool. So you may want to separate those other things. So go split hidden. Okay, I can go for this guy here. Okay, go back to my topic. You can, I think it's still there. Even I separated that, a copy of that. If I Control Z, it will go have that there again. You can just go delete hidden one more time to clean that up. A good sign of seeing that is underneath split. If you see split hidden, that means something is hidden. You want to delete that. Okay. So you can extrude things out like this, you know. You can add edge loop when you drag on the edge. You can move points. So what's actually happening is when you hover your cursor on any face and holding down space, you will see all the actions you can apply on that face, like delete, for example, or bevel it, okay, or Q mesh, which is more or less like a smart extrusion. And that is the action here. On the second palette, you have the target. So if you want to apply that on a single polygon, that's what that is. If you want to do that on all polygons, that's gonna do on all polygons, all quads, okay, and then all triangles. I don't have triangles. Behind, which is, I think it's what's behind that face. Okay, and then you have all those things. The useful ones will be polygroup. Okay, so I can, you know what, I Control Z too much. Again, come on, let me go delete hidden one more time. Sorry about that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is delete this middle line by move my cursor to any of the edges and holding down space. That's gonna change my command into auto command can be applied to edge, and there is a delete. The target will be an entire edge loop to delete that, and then I can do the mirror and weld. It's gonna give me something better. Okay, so I can use the ZModeler to start modeling this portion of my palette. Okay, like let me turn on symmetry, drag this one forward a little bit, and maybe I can start adding some edge loop. You can just hover your cursor there and go to ZModeler, which is BZM, and then change that to insert, and you can insert edge loop. Okay, and then you can use move, okay, to move that. So we're basically go back to traditional modeling now. But you can use other things like, you know, masking or any other tool you can use with ZBrush, because it's just a model. A good thing about this kind of thing is you can bevel. Oh, I'm meshing it. Sorry about that. It's better to turn off that then. To bevel it, just go to bevel and bevel that edge. Okay, but sometimes it's not beveling the edge you want it to be beveling. I want to bevel the top. So what you can do is Control Shift and click on it to isolate, and then go stroke. Remember the stroke we did earlier using this frame mesh here on this guy? We can do the same thing here, and then you can apply the bevel. Let me do that again. Show everything, and then you can apply bevel right here. Actually, change that to bevel. Okay. I don't know why the middle line is there. Okay. Oh, that's because it's framing also the creased edge. Let's cancel that before I frame it. and then holding down space, change that to bevel, and then bevel that. Alright, sweet. So you can do bevel. What else you can do? I'm not going to go over everything here, but some interesting things like if you hover your cursor, I don't like that creasing. Let me switch to crease, holding down Alt, click on that to reverse the creasing there. You can hover your cursor on the dot here, the vertex there, and use split. That's gonna allow you to split out a circle. Okay, if you go to the back side and click there again, it's gonna create another circle there. And then you can use Q mesh and change your brush into polygroup the target, and then just push it in. And when it meet the one on the other side, it will cancel each other to create a nice hole there. Okay. So imagine doing this in Maya, it's gonna be more complicated. I don't know what's happening over there. Huh. It's not always gonna succeed though. You have some artifact. I have some artifact there. Maybe I can do it twice. Okay. And I don't need those edges, just delete that edge loop in the middle. I don't need that. Okay. Now I have a perfect hole there. And then maybe I can go bevel this. Okay. And then insert some edge loop there to tighten that up. You can press D to preview the subdivision, the smooth preview, just like the 3 button in Maya, D, and Shift D to go back. Okay. Alright. Now that's just another way you can do hard surface modeling using the Z modeler. Anyway, so that's one of the interesting part, split, which is super helpful. Another interesting part is you can actually a lot of interesting part. For example, you can use this polygroup here, okay, and you can polygroup anything you click on. Okay, and if you want to, for example, let me do something here real quick. I'm gonna use Q mesh and Q mesh this loop out, poly loop, and then poly loop you can choose which direction because every face have 2 directions. You see those 2 yellow line? So that's one of the directions. Okay, that's another direction. So when you're Q meshing things out, you can hold it down Control. That's gonna perform a duplicate face. Okay. All right. And then let me use the close and convex hole. It's gonna help me to close it. And you can drag left and right to control the curvature, and then up and down to control how many lines you have, which is also a interesting feature there. Okay. But no matter what, you can see now this workflow, this traditional workflow is not as cool and fun like this, right? It's not as fun as this kind of way. Even you have some chunky result there, that doesn't really matter because I will retopologize this guy in Maya and those will never be seen. Anyways, okay. So just to show you some of the techniques, I'm not gonna do anything with that. Anyway, so that's one of the cool things. One thing is, you know, Q mesh, holding down Control to do that, and you can use the close hole and then drag the mouse to different directions to do different things. And then another thing will be the polygroup. Okay, for example, I want to extrude out the edges on the side, but I want to extrude out this one and leave this one alone, and then the next one. Okay, then I need to polygroup them first using polygroup, and then change my operation to checker, and then click there. I'm also using my target as polyloop, and I'm defining this direction. And you see now every other face will be having a poly group. And then if I Q mesh that with poly group all and Q mesh poly group all Q mesh, I think that's it. Huh, not doing that. Maybe I can use poly group. Oh, it's because Q mesh tries to connect things. Let's use extrusion poly group all. It's not doing that either. Something's wrong. Oh, maybe that's because it's not symmetrical. But anyway, this is just how you can create a checker like poly group. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. Another thing is you can hold down Alt to select the faces you specifically want to extrude out, and then just change your target to a single poly and then extrude those out. Okay. Can extrude out one time and maybe change that to poly group, and then one more time and one more time, and then add in a edge loop here by using insert. That way I will have some interesting shape there. But you can still see that this kind of way is harder to create organic and more variations like this. You cannot just easily do this kind of like beveling that and, you know, circle everything. It's just not as easy as using the traditional clipping curve way. This is harder, and you see that the shape I end up with is always not as good as that because you have to deal with topology. Okay, so my point is, you know, use this when you wanted to maybe create a perfect circle or something. But after this, my suggestion is you can Control D to subdivide it multiple times, and then go geometry, delete lower, and then actually then convert that into a data mesh to start giving it more interesting detail, like, you know, some nice cutting maybe, you know, which is hard to do using the ZModeler. Another thing I use is edge polish. If you keep edge polishing one part, you can actually push in a circle. For some weird reason, it's possible to do that. Okay. Cut that bottom. Okay. Forget to tighten that up when I was doing it. So my vote for the hard surface is using traditional way, have fun, okay, instead of using ZModeler. But it's always encouraged to try ZModeler because it's also awesome. Anyway, so I have some detail on the top too. Let's see what I can do here at the bottom. Let's see, maybe I can. Before I do that. Oh, let me show you another way I can do the. Did I have that? Okay. Do the ZModeler using a different technique. So duplicate this guy here. Okay, for the duplicated one, I don't need anything else. So just go geometry, delete hidden, and then I can use BSI, which is the slash curve. And then I can use slash curve to slash out my panel here. For example, I want to have a panel that is curving arc. You know what? Maybe it's flat here. And then having some angle here. So the difference here is I'm using a slash curve to define my panel. Okay. I can of course mirror it And maybe I can have some circle in the middle too, using slash circle. No, not that actually. Slash circle, right? Circle. Okay. Maybe even some on this side, just pushing it in. Okay. You'll see what I'm doing maybe in a moment. That one is offset a little bit. Maybe I wanted to do that again. Maybe have some sharper edge here. Okay. Mirror it. And then let me isolate this guy. Okay, that's gonna be the panel I wanted to extrude out. I'm gonna delete others again using delete hidden. And then I can go ZBrush and ZBrush it. Okay, what this will give me is a topology like this. And then I can go lower down the target poly count and ZBrush it again. Don't want to go too low then. Oh, you can also have symmetry on that's gonna force it to create something symmetrical. Okay. You can choose half to keep lower it down until you think, okay, that's enough. I cannot go down anymore. And then you can use the modeler again to use maybe Q mesh to extrude out the polygon here. And now I have a little panel that shapes like this. Okay. Let me bevel it on the edge like that, right? And then maybe do some insert edge loop to tighten things up. Okay, so now I have a panel that looks like this. It's definitely cleaner than the traditional way, and I don't have to do topology. The topology is oftentimes good enough, especially for animation. For game, maybe it's too dense, you can simplify that. But for animation, it's good enough. Anyway, so I can do more on the back. I can just keep populating stuff. But let's experiment another technique here, which is similar to this guy. Let me use mask to mask out the what did I do? Oh. Seems like I did something super stupid that I lost my model somehow there. We go back to here. Huh. Maybe it's a glitch or something. I don't know what's happening over there. I lost my model. And it becomes that one for some reason. I think I can still get it back. I can select that guy, right, and then duplicate it. So I can go back through history on this guy. Okay, so I can have this guy here back. Anyway, and I don't need that guy anymore. Let me work on this guy again. So mask it, It's fun. Use the freehand. So maybe this is some sort of you know, probe, and this probe will have some engine inside of it, and that's where the exhaust is. Okay, I'm gonna Control W, isolate. The same trick I did earlier, geometry, and then deformation, polish it again, and then isolate, Control Shift to push it in using the move, and then scale it to have some indentation. Alright, so that's dipping in now. Maybe my mask was not perfect. Let me go maybe tweak the contour a little bit to make it look smoother. Anyway, I believe you can do it better. So then what I want to do is I want to create a bunch of hole kind of like shape there. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is mask it. Okay, and then I want to use VST, which is the standard, and change my stroke into a drag rectangular and change the alpha into some I think that one is good, some dot like alpha, so I can drag something like that. But instead of creating one, I want to create multiple ones, so I can go to alpha and changing the modify H tile and V tile to something quite high. I think I got 16 here, and then I can create 16 in a row. I want to make them going in, and they're too strong, so I can lower down my Z intensity. Okay. Another thing is they're destroying the edge too. Okay, if I clear the mask, you see they're destroying the edge, which is not cool either. So I can use Z modeler, although it's kind of a little dangerous. I can go insert some edge loop up there. Okay, just gonna tighten that up. Let's mask it again, and using my standard brush, holding down Alt, and then create that. Okay. Now I have a nice grade in the middle. If it's getting faded out on the edge, that's because your focal length is having fade out. Just make that smaller, and then they will be all strong. Seems like the symmetrical is doing something bad. To fix that, to brush modifiers, auto masking and backface mask. Of course, that's something you should already know. Okay. Alright. So now it's nice and clean. Cool. Okay. Final trick here is how do you create cables, because those kind of things are charming and really helps to give the the model a extra detail level. With all those little cables you can create, you can basically end up with a much more attractive model, because those are just so nice to have with those detail there. It just feels more convincing that it's a real mechanical stuff. So anyway, I'm tired. Don't even know what I'm saying. Anyway, so let's try how to do that. So for creating a cable, just like this guy here actually, which is the insert brush, like that. Okay. Can easily do something like that, which is cool, right? So how do we create our own cable like that? Well, it's actually not that complicated. All you have to do is create the section, one section of it. So just this part. Okay. Actually, kind of liking it. So let me actually create a little cable from here. Maybe it goes beneath that. Okay. Oh. Maybe it's rotating in to there. Okay. I can extend this. Maybe in there. Okay. All right. I really want to do this. Just feels nice. But anyway, just make it go in. Click on the model. Maybe just push it in like that. Anyway, so how can we create something like this on our own? So let me go to the 2, and then we can start with anything. I think a cylinder would be nice, and this cylinder I can actually go to initialize to change how many subdivision it will have. So maybe 8 there. Don't need anything here in the middle. Okay. Now I can start doing something with it. For example, I can use the Molar. Oh, cannot do that yet because it's still a primitive. Make polymesh 3D is needed. I can insert some edge loop here. Maybe bevel that edge loop. Okay, and maybe using QMesh to push it in. I have to select polygroup out to do that. Okay, and then maybe I can go bevel the edge here too. When you create one bevel here, you want to apply the same amount of bevel, you can just click on other edges without dragging. That's gonna reapply the same amount of bevel there. Okay. And maybe my cable will have something extruded out. Let me try that polygroup checker again here, and then QMesh out. That's working this time for some stupid reason. But yeah, so I can get something extruded out a little bit. Maybe do that again. Maybe this time I can use extrude instead. It's gonna really do extrusion. Oh, yeah. The first time when I do the extrusion, I can actually holding down press Alt to assign a new polygroup there. If you don't want to ends up with the same polygroup as earlier. Okay, I can also bevel the face here. I can bevel the entire polygroup on the top. I can insert edge loop. Okay, again, I'm not gonna go over how every tool works there, but I want to at least give you a good start. So let's say this is like a segment of the cable I want to create. Now you have to understand that If you want them to be connected, then you don't need the cap here. So I'm gonna go use delete. Delete this entire flat island. That's good. Okay. I'll delete these two ends, and then I can make it facing up like that, and then go to brush, and then create insert mesh, and then new. This is gonna allow me to instance this on any surface of the model, but I want to actually make it duplicated along the curve, so I can go to stroke, and then go curve and turn curve mode on. That way I can drag out that curve, but they're not connected in the middle. You can make it connected by go to brush and then go to modifier, and then turn off triparts, turn on warp point, and then stretch, and then that will actually combine, merge them at the connection. Alright, so now I have a cable like this. Cool. A cable brush like this, and then I can go back to my original model here, which is this guy, I think. Okay, then I can create a cable maybe from that hole and then to the side there too. Okay, now it will try to snap to objects. That's because underneath the stroke, the curve, there is the stroke curve, there is the snap. Turn that off. That will prevent it from snapping, and then I can just draw it out like that. I don't want them to be meeting each other. We can turn off the symmetry for now. Okay. And then I can maybe drag that in. Maybe to the middle hole here. Okay, drag it in like that. You can tweak the shape in whatever way you want it to be. The size of your brush matters. So if you change the size of the brush, for example, I make it smaller, then click on it, it's going to make it smaller. Okay. So you want to have the correct brush size. Okay. And you can also extend it by moving your cursor really close and then start dragging. It's gonna extend it. I don't want bend either. Let's just give me a straight line. Okay, doesn't like that, but I can take it. I already fixed the position of the end, so I can actually lock end. That way when I drag the start here using bend, actually bend has to be on, the start will be locked down there. Okay. Just making it go connect in like that. Alright. Oh, change the size a little bit. Okay. When I'm happy with it, just click on the model, and that's finished. And then I can Control Shift to click on it, and then go to sub 2, split hidden, just to split it from the other ones, and then I can go mirror it to the other side if I wanted to do that. Geometry, mirror and weld. Okay. Now I have two cable created here. Okay. And of course start bending it by using other brushes to tweak its position one more time. Okay, just to give it more of a natural look. I think I need to create some connection here to really make it convincing. But you see how you can create a chord like this quite nicely. Okay, so that's basically what I want to go over in the hard surface tutorial. Okay. I think a good practice of creating hard surface is keep creating new panels, give them layers, and create little chord wrapping around the surface too, or cable, to really have a lot of detail. So that one here and that little cable I created, they all serves that purpose. So it's actually a very fun process, at least to me. So I do encourage you to really try to do something, and you can actually start from scratch. Sometimes I don't even have a reference, but I can always design something on my own, which is nice too. So that's for today, and your assignment is using the ZBrush hard surface techniques to start to do something completely in ZBrush, do some hard surface completely in ZBrush, and I would say as detailed as this one I'm getting, if you don't want to venture more, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay, so that's for today, and thanks for watching.